Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. So, I had one of my OGs of the channel, somebody who's been subscribing to me for 3 years now. My boy, Ronaldo. Ophalia, you guys pretty much see him comment on every video. What's up, my dude? I'll say Kuya. I know you hate that, bro. I'm sorry. Forgive me, bro. Anyways, man. So, I got a Bobby Fischer versus Boris Spassky game. As you guys are probably aware, Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky did play in 1972 for the World Championship. Arguably the most famous World Championship in the history of the game. Bobby Fischer literally stopped playing for like 20 years. And this is, it's kind of like a rematch, even though they had other world champions that were like active world champions at that time. But they kind of called it like the world championship rematch and stuff like that. And they actually played some pretty good chess. So it wasn't like, they just really suck these days. But this is one of the game. And this actually, it says it's round 30. So I'm like, it's crazy if they really played 30 plus games, bro. But anyways, all of my people coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking mga kaibigan? Let me see, magandang umaga. No, magandang hapon. It is afternoon. So mag lunch na tayo. I appreciate you guys very much. Maraming salamat aking mga kaibigan. Anybody who is, so at the time, Boris Spassky was representing France. So anybody who is coming from France, I will say bonjour, bienvenue. Ça me fait plaisir de te voir, mes amis. Merci beaucoup for coming and checking my stuff out. Anybody who is coming from Russia, because Boris Spassky was originally Russian, the Soviet Union, I will say privyet and spasibo. Appreciate you guys very much. But if you guys are ready to go, homie, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, son. So we got the move D4. Obviously one of the best opening moves. One of the drawbacks of playing the move E4 is that it is not immediately protected, as a move. It does open up the queen and the bishop a lot more than D4 does, but, D4 has the benefit of being protected by the queen automatically, no matter where you go. So we do see the move knight to F6. One of the major ideas that this opening is centered around like Indian defenses and stuff, knight to F6, is in controlling the E4 square. So a lot of the battles center around, basically white trying to push the move E4, because obviously what does white want to do? White wants to get E4, D4 as always, and the same thing for black. So obviously both sides are trying to play against that idea. So we have the move C4. Ideally, you want to put, when you go knight to C3, you want it to be behind the pawn, behind the C pawn, so that you can have like much more control over the center with the pawn. So we do see the move G6. And this is, as you guys are familiar, a hyper modern way of playing the game. Instead of occupying the center with pawns, black decides that they want to occupy it and control it from a distance with pieces with a fianchetto. So we got knight to C3, like I mentioned before. We got bishop to G7 with the hypermodern idea. We got the move E4. Now, the only thing I will say about the King's Indian, which is the opening that we are in right now, is it does see the center to white basically immediately. And of course, with the hyper-modern approach, you're kind of giving your opponent that, and you're basically saying, I'm going to try to attack it and break it down later. And so I definitely love, having this gigantic center. I play D4 myself, this is just beautiful to see. And then especially if you can get an F4 in, bro, you live in the life, homie. You got all the central squares there is. So we do see the move D6. You cannot allow the E5 pawn push because then your knight is going to be displaced. And, you're not fighting for the center very well, so you have to prevent that move. We do see the move F3. Now, this is called the Sämisch variation. And it basically is the same idea as, a dragon from the white side, a Sicilian dragon Yugoslav attack. You're basically saying, you are going to be trying to push these pawns, and sometimes the king might remain in the center, and that is actually something we see in this game. We got castles by black. Bishop goes to e3. And as you guys can see, any of you guys that probably play the Sicilian as white, you guys are familiar with this particular setup. You got bishop e3, which is definitely by far one of the best squares for the bishop to go to in that type of an opening. And then you have, you know, your pawns supporting the e4 point, which is very important. And then you probably are going to see these pawns start to get thrown forward. We do see knight to c6, knight g goes to e2. We see the move h6, and then we have the move h4. And I mean, it just goes along with the plan. Like I said, I mean, you are basically going on a very aggressive, you know, attack, trying to, you know, open some lines and checkmate this king. You might see like a rook to g1 type situation. And, you know, the interesting thing, one of the major things that I was trying to look at, you know, when I looked at this actual game, was that it was played in 1992. You know, Bobby Fischer, like, literally didn't play any chess for like 20 years that we know of. You know, Boris Spassky was still pretty active. But, you know, I think some of the consensus was that they kind of like were past their prime. You know, they were just older. They weren't really like, you know, playing really good chess anymore. You know, but the interesting thing about this move H4 at the particular time is that Garry Kasparov, which is the only person that I really heard critique the play of these players at the time, or like a little bit later. He actually played this move in 1984, so this is 8 years before they played this particular game right here. So we do see the move h5. We got knight down to c1, and this move was played about 2 years prior. So for the most part, leading up to this point, both players have kind of played very similar to, you know, the way players are playing at that particular time. We do see the move knight to d7, and this is the novelty of the game as of 1992. The interesting thing about it is this is very thematic when it comes to King's Indian defense. You know, you are wanting to move this knight out of the way, like maybe to d7, which is the most active square, or maybe to e8. You're just trying to prepare the move f5. We do see knight going up to b3. Now, if you are going to castle queenside, this is definitely a very good thing for you to do, because once you move this queen somewhere, the king goes in long castles. These two knights are very well protecting the king. We do see the move a5 because, of course, this is opposite of where your king is castled. So like I said before, you're in a situation where you do want to start gaining some space opposite your king. We see the move a4 because basically you want to make sure that black is not getting any more space than you really want them to. And then you see the move knight to b4. And pretty much this knight can live there forever. One of the things about when you do move these pawns to this position, which you actually see on both sides of the board, which is kind of crazy, is the ability for each side to basically plop a piece down into here. Of course, it's not possible now, like on this side, because you got this pawn right here. But you see that coming alive on this side of the board. We do see bishop to e2. We got the move b6, g4. And it might seem kind of crazy, but at the moment, the king is actually perfectly safe in the center of the board. So this is a very logical thing for you to do. Sometimes you actually don't castle as white at all. So, I mean, this is it's pretty crazy, but like I said, it's pretty normal to see. Pawn takes g4, pawn takes d4, and then you do see the move c5. For all of you guys that have seen my videos and I've discussed d4 in great depth, this is definitely something that you guys probably knew was coming, because this pawn center is way too great for you to really have if you are black. So you have to break it down some kind of way. We see the move h5. You have to go like really all in, because like I said, this king is stuck in the center of the board. So you really kind of need to get things rolling. Pawn takes d4, knight takes d4. You got the move knight to c5. And this is also a very common idea in the King's Indian, is just to attack this pawn as much as you can. Normally, you do have a knight over here, so you can double attack it. And then with the fianchetto, the bishop can come here and add a gigantic amount of pressure. Super owing to the fact that it is a double hypermodern situation. So we do see the move a knight to d5, just kind of seeing that idea and plugging things up a little bit. We do see bishop going to b7, and we have actually reached a point in the game that Boris Spassky actually plays a really, really crazy, interesting move in this position. It has some definite logic behind it, but I want to see if you guys can guess this move that he played. If you want to try to guess that, go ahead and do so. All right, man. So, like I said, if the situation was just a touch different, if white has castled their king queen side, this move would actually make a crazy ton of sense. But in this particular position, it is a really bad blunder. Now, so I wasn't saying it was the best move, but I mean, it was a very interesting move when I first saw it. So if you guessed the move knight to f5, you would be absolutely correct as far as this is the move that he played, but you would be absolutely incorrect if you felt like this was a good move. Like I said, it does have some logical idea behind it, but it is just very, very poorly timed. You do not really have enough going on, enough attack as white, and your king is stuck in the center of the board. So obviously, as you guys know, that is not, when you want to start attacking your opponent, is when your king is stuck in the center of the board. But the idea is what we actually see in the game. Pawn takes f5, pawn takes f5. Boris Spassky does want to open the G file so that way he can get to this king. But the thing about the situation is black can actually just sidestep out of the way of any of these threats, because you want to go rook to g1, you want to push pawn like this and pin this bishop and maybe win your piece back, but the king will literally just go king to h7 and you're good to go. And the problem that black has is that you are kind of hanging some material at the moment. We do see bishop taking d5. Now obviously, as you guys know, whenever you do sacrifice a piece or you are just straight down a piece, it is going to benefit the opposite side to start trading material down, because then they're going to be left with a piece and you're not. So that is basically what Bobby Fischer says he wants to go ahead and start doing. So bishop takes d5. We see pawn taking d5. This does somewhat solve the problem of the e pawn, but you have way too much of an attack and you also have an extra piece if you are black. So we do see bishop taking b2. And this is one of the logical moves. Even though your king is a little bit open, white doesn't really have the speed that's necessary to really attack your king at the moment. So your king is actually super safe. Plus we're hitting this rook right here. I mean, why not? We do see the king going over to f1. There really wasn't a better king move. There really isn't a whole lot of great moves. One of the things you don't really want to do is save your rook, because I mean, you're just, like I said, stuck in the center, so it really isn't going to benefit you too much. And then you do have queen to d7 attacking your pawn. So basically what black has the ability to do is just start attacking all of your weak points. So we do see the queen going over to b1. This is a very sad move to make because, like I said, you are attacking, you are allowing your rook to be taken. We do see bishop taking a1, and the very accurate rook goes to g1 with check first, sliding the king over. And then after the king goes to h8, we are able to take a queen takes a1 with check. And after the move f6, black really doesn't have anything to worry about. You're not going to be able to muster an attack over here because the queen is actually way over here on this side of the board. You do have this open file, but black can just contest that with rook to g8. So you see that white has way too much that they have to worry about in this position, and it's really just not holdable. So to play on a little bit more, you do see the move queen to b1. You can't lose any more material, and plus, knight to c2 was actually a problem because it was going to be forking the bishop and the queen. So we definitely don't want to allow that. We got rook going over to g8. And like I said, this is just one of those situations where black can just completely contest you. And you're not really going to be doing anything in the position at all. Black is just shutting you completely down. Rook goes up to g6. If you're going to trade pieces, you kind of want to trade where you go ahead and do this and correct your pawn structure. Something like that. So we do actually see that, like I said, black is wanting to just trade pieces down because then they're just going to end up with extra pieces. So you see after rook takes g6, pawn takes g6, everything is literally identically even except for the fact that black has a completely extra piece and it happens to be a rook. So it's not really where you want to be. These double bishops definitely don't compensate you at all for what you're looking at. We do see the move king going to g7, and it is in this position that Boris Spassky does resign the game. So as you guys know that learned anything about the 92 kind of rematch was that Bobby Fischer did ultimately win. That actually, I believe, from what it said, is that's the biggest prize fund that's ever been put up for a chess match ever. It was like $5 million or something that they did for that. So, I mean, to not play chess for 20 years and come out and just start, play again and get, a few $1 million, It did come with a price, though. As you guys know, Bobby Fischer was going against sanctions, and so he did kind of have to flee the United States, and he never returned to the United States again. So I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.